Hey everyone, welcome back to another class exercise from microeconomics. This is the second optimal pricing. So I'll be doing, like I said in the last one, I'll be doing all the exercises, but I'll be doing them, releasing them in pairs more likely, so that way it's easier to kind of keep track of. So this will be the second optimal pricing. The first one was the flour example. That was Montag flours. And this one is Montoya Steelworks. So this one has an interesting twist, something that will be interesting, I'm sure, to some of you. To others, it may be just a question as to why is this question more difficult than it needs to be. But I think that's the kind of thing that we're going to see in life and in this class anyway. So anyway, ramble complete. Let's get to it. So Montoya Steelworks is a steel manufacturer. For every Q tons of steel, it costs this much to produce it. So similar to the last question, it is a self-contained cost. We don't have to do any fancy multiplication. Now, what's interesting is because in Florin, right, Montoya is going to be selling at this quantity for this price, PF. So already we're seeing that this quantity right here is Q. Now, why I'm not immediately labeling it as Q is because there are two options for Montoya. They can either sell it in florin or they can sell the steel to good old Spain. Spain is very competitive and they can sell it at $100 a ton right here. So already we're seeing two different prices and two different quantities. We don't have to put a variable or create a variable for Spain's price because we technically already have it. It's $100 a ton. Now, the quantities are a different matter. And as we see what the question is asking us, we are seeing how much steel to produce and how much will be kept for local sale. And the goal is to maximize the profits. However, what is the quantity of the steel you will produce and how will it be divided? So we already get the idea there are going to be two different quantities. So going back over here, in this area right here, we are going to label this as QF. And for the steel that is being sold in Spain, we have QS. So what is the equation? Well, in this case, there is no game tree, so we're not doing like a segmented order. It's pretty much taking one equation and optimizing it. So step one, and only really the only step here is optimize. So what is the profit equation? Well, let me just put a subtraction sign there. So we have revenues and we have costs. So before we do that, let's actually go back. I missed a step here. We will be we'll be setting all the variables to quantity. And the reason why we're doing that is because, again, we're not solving for price, we're setting for quantity first. Price is actually secondary in this scenario. And the question is asking us how much steel will be produced. If, let's say, there was a third part of the question that said, what is the price we'll be selling it at, then that'll be a different story. Then we would have to just simply solve for quantity right here for both florin and Spain, and then insert the values back again. But anyway, going back to the quantity, right here, we're going to be just setting, instead of QF equals to blank, we'll have PF equals to blank. So in this case, PF is equal to, well, you take 150 from each side, you divide it by -1, and you will get 150 minus QF. And then for QS, just QS, nothing fancy. So the equation here, where we'll be getting two sets of revenues, right? So we have one from Spain, we have 100, right? That's the price, times QS. That's it for Spain. I'm just going to go ahead and actually Spain, and then for florin. So florin is this part right here. So we have the price, and we have the quantity. So let's go ahead and do that. So we have QF times 150 minus QF. And then we have the cost. So the cost, before we start putting Q's, right? So the cost here is 2000 plus 20Q plus Q squared. Now this is the combined quantity. And because we'll be taking a, spoiler alert, derivative of each QF and QS, we have to break it apart as such. So let's go ahead and write this down. It's 2000 plus 20 times QF plus QS plus QF plus QS squared. And actually, one thing I'm realizing here, you're more than happy to go ahead and keep QF, QS the same thing. But for the sake of writing, because you're going to be writing this out, let's go ahead and actually convert these values. So QF and QS are now going to be X and Y. And that's just going to make things easier while writing it down. So in this case, we'll have just rewriting it as, well, we can actually go ahead and multiply everything out. So we have 150x minus x squared plus 100 times y minus 2000 plus 20x plus 20y, and then I'm not even going to expand this out. I'm just doing it for the sake of, making it simple. So now comes the more straightforward part. So we're going to be taking two derivatives. We're going to take it in terms of x and then in terms of y. So I already have used Wolfram alpha. So used Wolfram alpha. And I've come up with the following equations. You'll have negative 2 times 2x plus y minus 65 is equal to 0. And then if you take it in terms of y, you have negative 2 times x plus y minus 40 is all equal to 0. So here is the fun part, and I say fun meaning you're near the finish line. You can take any one of these equations and simply set it to one variable. So in this case, let's just say 2x plus y minus 65 is equal to 0. And you see, oh, well, y is already available, right? Y is by itself. You don't want to use 2 and then have to divide 65 by 2 and then have fractions. You don't want that, especially if you're doing this timed. So let's go ahead, switch this around. Boom. So now what you can do, you can technically do one of two things right now. You can insert this y into this section right here and solve it. Or you can simply rearrange this. So you'll have x plus y minus 40 is equal to 0. Y is equal to 40 minus x. And then you can set these two equal to each other. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to go ahead and do this here. So 65 minus 2x is equal to 40 minus x. You add the two x's, subtract the 40s, you get 25 is equal to x, which is equal to quantity in florin. And then to figure out y, go ahead and do this. Y is equal to 40 minus 25. Y is equal to 15, which is equal to QS. So you'll get the exact same answer if you do this method right here. In fact, you may actually get to it faster. So let me just go ahead and work that out actually. So x plus 65 minus 2x minus 40 is equal to 0. You have negative x minus 25 equals 0. Yeah, you would get x is equal to what did I do here? What did I do here? Plus 65 minus 2x minus 40 is equal to 0. Negative x minus 40, negative 25. Interesting. So if you do it this way, uh you actually get a negative number. Okay, I don't know how that happened. That just shows you that you need to, when you do this kind of math, you really need to take it slow. I'm generally curious why it is happening like this because, yeah, interesting. Okay, well, that shows you that not all the time everything is going to work out. Obviously, if you do it this way, uh, the numbers are not matching up for whatever reason, but that's okay because sometimes that happens. Sometimes when you're in the midst of things and you try and do them, things don't always work out, and that's perfectly all right. Let me go ahead and get back to this one. But in the meantime, we have both quantities and we have essentially answered the question. So the combined quantity in this case would be, so combined Q is equal to 40, and then you divide these two, QF, QS is equal to 25 and 15. There you go. That's your answer right there. Go right up here. How much quantity will you produce? You will produce 40. How will you divide it? QF is equal to 25. QS is equal to 15. That's pretty much it. So again, coming down basics to just reading the question. When I was first practicing on my own, I, of course, did the very smart thing and used a combined quantity. That's partially because I didn't read this part of the question right here. So it's very important to read the question, right? That gives you like an idea of what you're supposed to be doing. So when you read this and you say, how will it be divided between Florida and Spain? Well, if you're dividing a quantity, that means you need to have a quantity for each, I guess, Florida and Spain, Q1, Q2, or QF, QS, or X and Y. And then from there, you'll be able to kind of solve everything out. But yeah, thanks again for tuning into another video. Hopefully you had a good time. You understood something. Of course, if any of you guys figure out what I did here and like why this is not working, or maybe I'm not supposed to do it, I'll really like to know that. But otherwise, thanks again and have a great rest of your day. Goodbye.